Hello, Mio and MMA people, and I think this one's going to be a short one today, but you'll probably know that based on how long the episode is. Anyways, we're here to recap UFC 321, and this card obviously is all about the ending. No contest in the heavyweight title fight between Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall when Aspinall gets poked in the eye. Not great. The reaction to this is also not great because it has brought out a side of the MMA fandom that I really don't like, which is he's not really a fighter. He quit. He gave up. He should have fought on. And it's come from fighters. It's come from fans. It's come from Dana White. And I never liked that because here is the thing. Could this all be true? Yeah, sure. Possibly. Possibly Tom Aspinall wanted a way out of the fight. I can't read his mind. But that's the point is I can't read his mind. You can't read his mind. If he could not see, he could not see. And that's the thing is people are trying to bring up all kinds of injuries people have fought through and continued through and even won through. An eye injury is unique because it's impossible to tell how damaged it is at the time of the poke. There are eye pokes in the history of MMA that looked really bad and turned out to be nothing. The eye turned out to be fine. And there are eye pokes that looked very normal, very superficial, very grazing that ended up being like actually serious damage. So we do not know. Only Tom knows. Tom is the only one with the answer to that question, and anything else is pure speculation. And baseless speculation at that, because we can't know. We cannot know. Anyways, for the fight itself, I did think I had gone ahead. He did a lot of things that were promising. He dealt with Aspinall's blitzes pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and say that like my opinion of how this fight goes was not shifted in a Gane positive direction. It was. However, that just doesn't affect the start stuff I was talking about. Anyways, should see a rematch. There is nobody else to put these two up against at heavyweight except Alex Pereira. If the UFC wants to do that, and I don't know if they do, and they're not acting like it. And on top of that, there's no one else. Like, the next up would be Volkov, who both of these guys have beaten. Now, Gane in controversial fashion the second time around, but like, it's one of those weird things where like, I very much scored the first fight for Volkov. Not the first fight, the second fight for Volkov. The first time around in the rematch. But I was left with the distinct feeling that if Gane fought smart, he would just beat Volkov. And I'm still left with that feeling. And the Aspinall fight left very, very little room for doubt. So that's not particularly interesting. There's not really anything. Like, the closest thing we have to an up-and-coming heavyweight is Mario Pinto. And then Antia Delaja, who Aspinall doesn't want to fight. So there you go. I guess we could get Delaja Gane for the title if Aspinall vacates it, I suppose. But rematch coming down the pipe. If I am Aspinall, I am reevaluating my approach to the fight. I am changing some things. That being said, if I was Aspinall, I would have been changing things long ago. So there is that. I would not have built a style like Aspinall has. Co-main event was the strawweight title fight between Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba. I scored it 3-2 in favor of Dern, and you could go 4-1. You could even go 5-0. There's not really a Jandiroba must-score, must-do round. Virna Jandiroba. I gotta get that right. Virna. I don't have much to say about this other than I was right. Mackenzie Dern on the feet was able to have the impact that Jandiroba could not match. On the ground, yes, Jandiroba could take her down. She took her down 9 times. She could control her. She had 9 minutes of top control. But by the same token, she couldn't get anything done. And even on the bottom, Dern was landing a lot of shots off her back, landing the more damaging shots even off of her back. And there just wasn't really anything to go with here. It's just, it's a toxic matchup for Virna. And that's just kind of all there is to it. she really functions with a grappling advantage. And if you take that away from her, there's not a lot to her game. And do I think Dern will keep this belt for a long time? No, because she's a clunky striker. Someone was joking if Joanna Jędrzejczyk came out of retirement and fought either of these ladies, she would just win the belt again. And they are not wrong. they are not wrong. Assuming that Jędrzejczyk hasn't fallen off a cliff, and she may have, I do actually kind of think she would walk into a title again. This division hasn't taken a step up in her absence. Like Weili Zhang did, but the division as a whole, not really. That's the problem. So, not really sure where you go with that, because the next logical contender is Tatiana Suarez, but I don't think anyone wants that. To be honest, I'm not even sure Tatiana does. So, that's a weird place to be. And the UFC will probably want to keep Mackenzie Dern as champion for a while, because she is very, very marketable. People are interested in her for reasons that are not fight related. We'll put it that way. And then Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. This unfortunately went like I thought it would. And I do mean unfortunately, because when I get a fight, when I predict a fight to be kind of just one guy being better, I'm not actually hoping to be right. I'm hoping to be wrong. And unfortunately, Mario couldn't do that. He had Umar hurt badly in the second round. I gave him the second round, but he clearly lost 1 in 3. He was out-wrestled, out-combination struck, and it's just, he doesn't have the right game to, in 3 rounds, exploit Umar. In a longer fight, maybe. Never know. But can he gas him out like Merab did? I don't even know. Anyways, Mario still is, fun action fighter and very much at the top of the division. And Umar will wait in the wings for somebody. He called out a couple of different options there that were fine. I do hope they don't do the Ayman Zahabi fight, because I don't really see what Zahabi has to offer. And I know someone will say, well, Zahabi is overperformed. He's done so. It's like, yeah, but Zahabi's way of winning has been to outwork people and to exploit their technical lapses, even if they have a physical advantage over him. Umar has the technical advantage over him. I see that as an even less interesting fight than the Bautista one. Because for one thing, Bautista is at least fun while losing. Like the fight was fun to watch. It just was tactically uninteresting. And at the end of the day, the Zahabi fight would not be. So not really interested in that one when it comes down to it. Then we get to the interesting decision of the night. Aleksandar Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. Now, basically, this is very, very simple. And people are arguing this. And I am befuddled. I am confused. I do not understand. People wanted Almeida to win this fight after watching it. Almeida takes Volkov down early in round 1. He's on top control. He's doing his thing, which is nothing. This is again the problem here. If you look at this fight, Jailton Almeida landed all of 9 significant strikes. 0 in round 1, 4 in round 2, 5 in round 5. He landed a strike in round 1. A strike, 1 strike with 2 minutes and 38 seconds of top control and no submission attempts. So boring. Volkov reverses him. He peppers him. He doesn't do anything amazing. He doesn't do anything phenomenal. He doesn't do anything to break the meta. He just actually punches from top position. Almeida, take notes for the love of God. Round 2, I have to give to Almeida. He scores 3 takedowns. He lands 9 strikes, which sucks, with 4 minutes and 27 seconds of top control. But Volkov lands 8 strikes, no top control, 2 significant ones, no significant damage. Almeida wins. One of the most boring rounds in humankind history. Round 3 is the one that I guess is controversial. Volkov outlands him 77-17, despite being on bottom for 3 minutes and 42 seconds and showing no takedown defense of note. He lands a couple of good strikes in the clinch when there was a brief clinch thing where he got to spam some knees. It was fine. I understand not being impressed with Volkov's performance. I'm not. I'm disappointed in Volkov not having some answer for the takedowns. Even in round 3 when Almeida is doing nothing. Not tired or anything, but he's doing nothing. But you cannot reward Almeida for literal control. That's it. I'm not one of these people who's like, control doesn't win fights. Second round is a perfect example of this. Solid example of control winning a round. Where the guy on bottom lands a single-digit number of strikes. You land a single-digit number of strikes. Cool. Fine. That goes to the top guy. But round 3, I don't know why people are arguing that Almeida won that round and the fight. No, sorry. The judges absolutely made the right call. I was worried about them making the right call. But they made it. They went out there and they made the damn call, and I'm so happy about it. I have never been so happy about the result of a terrible, terrible fight in my life. So, congratulations, judges. Not really a congratulations to Volkov. He fought poorly, but Almeida is just terrible. Then we get to Mirzakhanov versus Rakić. Mirzakhanov first round knockout. There is not a lot to talk about here, other than realistically speaking, you should not be running into a jab like Rakić did when you have. Let me get the numbers right. Let me establish the numbers here. 6 inches of height and 6.5 inches of reach. Should not happen. But I was having bad vibes from Rakić the whole time because Rakić was talking about how I'm training in Serbia now, and it's going to be better, and it suits me so much more, and I'm more comfortable. That is all bad. And I don't wish to disrespect the fighting spirit of the Serbian people, because they will fight. I have been there. I have been to soccer matches in Serbia. They will brawl. They will fight. They need very little encouragement. But their MMA history and their success is non-existent. It's basically just Rakić. So when you're telling me that like you have the option to train elsewhere, be it in Austria, the United States, UK even, and you're electing to train in Serbia because you're comfortable with that, that is a bad sign. I didn't like that. And I was very happy I picked Mirzakhanov, I guess, in a nutshell. Even though, like, this is a fight Mirzakhanov should not win. And he did. Also, I don't know, Rakić is, I think, broken. I think that he's not terribly durable. Don't get me wrong, he got hit with a hellacious shot here. But he's not terribly mentally or physically durable. And I think he'll crumble almost any time that we see him under any kind of adversity. And that means that against the elite of the division, outside of, I guess, Jamal Hill, maybe? Because Jamal Hill is, like, apparently just physically broken. Maybe he can win that fight, but that's about it. And he can turn it around, because he's not that old by 205 standards. He's 33. He just needs to actually go and be uncomfortable. He needs to go to a gym and to a coaching environment that will do something with him. Because I get the feeling that his coaches in Serbia, they just don't do anything with him. Like, who is the second best fighter out of Serbia? Is it Duško Todorović? Because that's horrifying. Is it Uros Benić, who's not even training there? That's also horrifying. Anyways, that's all I have to break down on that one. Mirzakhanov wants a number 1 contender fight, and it's kind of like, why not at this point? Nasrat Haqparast was doing kind of what I thought he would do against Salkilld. He was just like kind of that little bit better, that, you know, he shook the confidence, took the front foot, pressure, combinations. Putting Salkilld on the back foot while still having a kick-heavy offense is, generally speaking, a great idea. There is a couple of shots from Salkilld. They looked terrible. He had two shot takedowns. Looked bad. Looked terrible. And then Salkilld kills him with a head kick knockout. And it was scary. I'm surprised. Like, given a couple of fights ago, they were giving a lot of or a couple of fight nights ago, they were giving updates on that girl that I'm blanking her name. Small girl. Parents didn't know she fought. Medical school. She knocked out another Chinese fighter. like dead or Japanese fighter. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the specifics of the fighters, but and they were giving like tons of updates. I was expecting that for this because Hakbarast was that was scary. There was even a moment where Salkilld goes from elation and pride to, oh my God, I might have just killed someone. and that was kind of it. So Salkilld gets a big win, but I think in a fashion that leaves me respecting his power more, but his overall skill set less. So if I'm him, I'm treating this more as a loss and an idea that at this level, I still need to get a lot better than I was. So there is that. I don't have much to say about Ikram Aliskerov versus Jung Young Park. Park was overmatched physically. That was essentially the story of the fight, and it was essentially the story of the fight that I thought was going to play out. So, hey, I picked up some money, and if you listen to me, maybe you did too. So I'll take it, I guess, but it wasn't a particularly interesting fight, and it's not one that I want to go back and look at all that much again. Now, interesting fight here. Ludovic Klein versus Mateusz Rambusky. This was interesting. So round 1 and round 2, easily Klein. He's countering Rambusky's forward movement really well. He's taking advantage of the fact that Rambusky is not subtle about what he's trying to do. He's a power ball, and he's keeping range. So Klein has learned some things that have cost him fights in the past, and he's looking very good, and I'm loving it. It's fantastic. Very clear rounds he won. He stuffed the takedowns for the most part. I'm actually kind of curious. What were the takedown defense numbers here? Let's see here. Yeah, Rambusky overall went 3 for 12. And one of those takedowns was in round 2, where he went 1 round for 3. And he went 2 for 4 in the third round. So mostly it came in the third round. He outlanded him 41-22 and 25-21. So good work. And then we get to the third round. And Rambusky gets a takedown, holds for 4 minutes of top control, beats him up, arguably 10-8s him. I didn't quite give it to him. And at the same time, had he just stood up, I think he would have got a stoppage. This is almost an Andre Sukumta, Sean O'Malley moment, because Klein's leg was done. Absolutely done. He got interviewed sitting by Daniel Cormier after. It was Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier 3 without the doctor stoppage yelling, essentially. So if he just stood up, he might have gotten a stoppage, because I don't think Klein could have gotten up. Now, unlike Sukumta and O'Malley, I think that there was no way for Rambusky to know that, whereas I think Sukumta should have. So it's not quite the same, but it is worth noting that, and some people were like, well, that justifies a 10-8 and that's a draw. I'd be fine with that. There were some 10-8s given out because one judge did go draw, Tony Weeks, 28-28, and Ben Cartledge went 28-27. Klein. Now, I don't like that scorecard because it gives a 10-8 in the second round. And don't get me wrong, I am Mr. 10-8, liberal application of 10-8s. But based on the existing system, round 2 was not a 10-8. So, don't like that. Probably should have been a draw, just how it played out. But Klein fought really well, actually. I think we're going to see him off for a while because I think his leg is absolutely boned. But he looked good. He fought really well. So, hands up, thumbs up, high five, and it's as good as I guess I can expect off of that fight. Valter Walker did the heel hook thing again against Louis Sutherland. The only thing I'll say about this is that there's really no progression in Valter Walker's opponents. So, cool, he's won 4 heel hooks in a row, but it's Junior Tafa, Dontel Mays, Kenny Nzechukwu, Louis Sutherland. Only one of those is a fighter that is moving forward, and I guess that would be Nzechukwu. Sutherland is the worst of those, just based on UFC caliber. Probably better than Tafa, though. And, yeah, that's about it. Then we had the weird fight in terms of reaction here. So, Jose Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood. Delgado comes out and he looks great in the first round. He drops Wood. He's really lighting him up. Wood's having a hard time finding his range, finding a way to get in there. He's being outworked. He's been outlanded quality and quantity. It's great. Wood would have gotten 10-8'd here. No question if he didn't score a late knockdown against Delgado. Delgado looked really, really good. And he kept looking good. He arguably won rounds 2 and 3. Now, the issue is that Wood ends up winning this fight. And people were really annoyed by it. And I sort of get it. I sort of understand it. But here's the thing. Wood outlanded Delgado in the second and the third round, and the quality was actually really close. Delgado's zip wasn't there. Delgado's ability to hurt him wasn't there. Delgado's ability to make things happen was not there. I don't know if he got tired or Wood just picked up on ways to close the gap and implement his own. I think it was a little bit of both. And don't get me wrong, you could still score those rounds for Delgado. You can say he landed the better shots in there, and I do not argue. I scored them for Wood, but I would not argue. But people were like, how can Wood win that fight? It's like, if you score this fight as a whole, you give it to Delgado, unquestionably. That's not how we score it. And this is kind of my problem with like the lack of 10-8s. In my opinion, this fight should have been a draw or Delgado win, because round one should be a 10-8 under my new like scoring criteria, where 10-8s are relatively common, and then the other two rounds are 10-9s. You see where I'm going with this. So there you go. I think people just had money on Delgado and were angry about it, which I've always said, don't bet what you can't lose. MMA is chaotic, and this was a great example of it. This was a really fun fight. Go back and watch this fight because it's dope. Or at the very least, the first round. Go back and check that out. Talking about fights not to go back and rewatch is the next two. Hamdi Abdelwahad basically mushed 9 takedowns and outstruck Chris Barnett something like 9-1 en route to a very uninspiring unanimous decision victory. Uninspiring because you cannot get dominant position like that in heavyweight MMA as often as Hamdi did without finishing a guy and have me be at all hyped. Valter Walker called him out in his next fight. I guess that would be fun. But the only thing that we'll remember this fight is Chris Barnett mooning the audience because he lost his pants. That's literally... It's literally all we're getting out of this fight. And it annoys me because, like, you have Chris Barnett, and let's be clear, Barnett is not a serious heavyweight, and you don't employ him thinking he is a serious heavyweight. He is a fun, freak show fighter. Give him bookings where he can do that. This is heavyweight. There are plenty of dudes who could have a fun fight with Chris Barnett, and you give him Hamdi Abdelwahad. But I was more disappointed in the Mitch Raposo versus Azat Maxim fight. Azat Maxim has a problem, and that is that, dude, you have the wrestling to be very, very good. You scored 7 takedowns here, and you have good power. You have good power in your hands, and you have good single strike technique. But you made a career in the Central Asia scene, Kazakhstan, of fighting dudes who were just kind of absolutely useless. And it shows because you don't really throw combinations. You don't do a lot on the ground. You're very, very low output. And against another pretty low output fighter in Mitch Raposo, at least by flyweight standards, you got outlanded in the second and the third round quite badly. And you got takedowns, and they were cool. And there was one slam, particularly in the first round, that was very cool. But that will not win you fights at the UFC level. I thought you would win against Mitch Raposo here, but you did not. And Mitch Raposo gets a win that doesn't really mean anything. Like, it's kind of the worst way to win is for a fight that I'm just going to kind of ignore in Raposo's next fight. Unless he's fighting someone who's exactly like Maxim, I guess. But I don't feel any better about his chances. He's still not that high output. Guy who does have fast hands and a little bit of pop in his hands, and can wrestle. Don't get me wrong. There's a somewhat well-rounded skill set there. But he beat up on cans. Kind of has the same problem as Maxim, where like you have formed a lot of bad habits. I think the only difference is I think Raposo realizes he formed those bad habits and is like trying to do something to counter them. The interesting thing was this fight had a point deduction for Maxim grabbing the cage. And on top of that, we had a point deduction for shots to the back of the head from Hamdi Abdelwahad. So back-to-back points with point deductions is kind of interesting. The referees were on point at this point, but they weren't really all that great in the other fights on the card. There weren't any like horrendous foul examples really that I can think of. The Wood fight, I think, had a couple though. There was, Delgado got away with a couple of low blows. They were not terrible. I don't think they needed a point deduction, but it would have been nice to see that. like just in general. Again, I think that repeated fouls should result in that. And there was a fight later on, and I'm blanking on which one it was, because it didn't really impact the fight as much as you would like. Who was it? Might have been Aleksandar versus Park. Yeah, I think so. Where he fouled him like 4 warnings. He had 2 low blows, an eye poke, I think, and a grab of the fence. So they weren't massive things, but at some point a point should have been taken. So that's, again, competency and consistency of refereeing is a major problem in MMA. And then Jacqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue. Amorim came out and looked like she was going to win the fight how I thought she would. Take down, top control, some dominance, looking for the submission, looking for some ground and pound. And then she got reversed in the first round by Mizuki. Mizuki landed a couple of good shots. Maybe stole the round, maybe didn't. I still gave it to Amorim, but I understand that a lot of people gave it to Mizuki, including 2 of the judges at cage sides. I don't have a problem with that. And she seemed to hurt something inside of her mouth. And from that point onwards, it was not good. It was inactive. It was shooting from too far outside. There was pulling guard and stuff. Got knocked down in the 3rd round by Mizuki. Nearly finished. Pretty dominated. So Mizuki took rounds 2 and 3 on my card pretty easily. Mizuki gets the win. It's cool. Mizuki's a fun fighter. I thought Amorim had fixed some of her front-running tendencies. Turns out she hasn't. And I need to basically treat her like a female Darren Cruikshank. All the physical tools and none of the ability to fight from behind, none of the ability to fight through adversity. And we saw that against Sam Hughes, so I can't say that that's new. This fight was very like the Sam Hughes fight. Start well and finish very poorly. So people were saying she needs to be on UFC BJJ instead of MMA. Might be true. Might honestly be true. It doesn't seem like she handles getting hit very well. I'm in no way saying that like we need to get rid of her. I'm in no way saying that this is the end of the road for her. But this is something that has now reared its ugly head twice, and is one that we do not have a track record of fixing terribly well. She has to have her Charles Oliveira moment where she comes to peace with the idea that fighting is hard, and I know that's a controversial take. To a certain degree. So that was the fight card from the Middle East doing the thing. And we do not have a great card lined up for November 1st. Steve, don't get me wrong. Steve Garcia versus David Onama is going to be a fun fight. And on top of that, I am really hoping that Ante Gelia knocks out Waldo Cortez Acosta. That would be fantastic. That would be great. But that's the main event and the co-main event. And that's pretty bad. And then you have Jeremiah Wills versus Themba Gorimbo. And don't get me wrong, Themba Gorimbo is a really good heartfelt story, but no. And then Isaac Dalgarian versus Yadir Daval. Then we get Charles Radke probably winning a fight that I'm going to have to pick him to win against Daniel Frunze. I don't like that. I don't like picking Charles Radke to win. And it's not even my like objection to Charles Radke as a person. It's my objection to Charles Radke as a person and as a fighter. They're both bad. Rafael Estevan versus Alan Nascimento. That's a matchup I don't like as well. Well, you know what? That could be fun. That could be fun because Nascimento on bottom would be actually a problem for Estevan. So there's that. Kevin Christian versus Billy Elikana. Why? Timmy Kwamba versus Chen Ho Lee. That's fine. Dante Johnson versus Cedric Dumas. Why are we still booking Dumas? Again, people think I dislike Dumas because of his personality, and I do. The dude is a massive criminal. The dude is literally on house arrest half of his UFC career. But on top of that, he is bad. I am willing to put up with Sean Strickland while thinking he's a piece of trash. I am willing to put up with DDP while thinking he's a piece of trash. I am willing to put up with Brendan Allen while thinking he's kind of a piece of trash. I was willing to pull it up with BJ Penn back in the day because he was amazing while being a piece of trash. I don't understand why I have to deal with horrible people who are also horrible fighters. I'm sorry. This is not cool. Ketlin Vieira versus Norma Dumas should be legitimately higher on the card. Don't get me wrong. I don't even think highly of the fight. I just think that lowly of most of these other fights. Like, at least that one has meaning. So put it higher up. Elise Ardeline versus Caneo, Montserrat Caneo. I might have to pick Alice Ardeline to win a fight finally. Wow. Phil Rowe versus Soki Ko could be fun if Neil Magny version 2.0 doesn't trick someone into Neil Magny. And then Talita Alencar versus Ariane Carnelosi. You know what? Not a terrible fight, although one that I think the lack of size and the fact that Alencar is a atom weight kind of makes the pick a little obvious. But anyways, check down below for my social media stuff and my Discord and my video gaming stuff. Please enjoy. Particularly the Discord. Check it out. There's the Fight Sim and the Fight Masters Fight League there. And yeah, I think if you've gotten to this point in the podcast, you would enjoy that. There you go. Have a good one.